Just look around you for a second. Hidden in the walls of your house, your office, everywhere, there's this silent, invisible web of wires. And holding it all together, making sure that incredible power keeps us safe, is an invisible rulebook. Today, we're going to decode one small but super important piece of that book, the National Electrical Code. So let's start with a real-world problem. You've probably seen this. You need a new power outlet, maybe for a new TV or a desk, but you look at your main breaker panel and it is just full. Every single slot is taken. So what do? Do you have to rip out the whole thing and install a brand new panel? Well, not always, and the answer is buried in the rules. And that answer is found inside this massive document, the National Electrical Code, or as everyone calls it, the NEC. You can think of it as the ultimate safety manual for basically anything that uses electricity in the United States. It's the reason our electrical systems are so incredibly reliable and, way more importantly, so safe. And the scope of this thing is just huge. I mean, the same fundamental rules that govern the wiring of a giant skyscraper are the exact same ones that apply to the wiring inside your bedroom. This code is truly the universal language of electrical safety. The whole NEC is broken down into 9 big chapters, and they cover everything from the absolute basics to some seriously specialized stuff. Now, obviously, we can't cover it all today, so instead, we're going to zoom way in and focus on just one single section in one of those chapters. So let's jump into Chapter 2, Wiring and Protection. This is the real core of the code for most buildings, whether it's a house or an office. It lays down all the ground rules for how circuits are designed, what kind of protection they need, and how everything is supposed to work together. Yeah, it's all about the fundamental infrastructure. You know, if you imagine electricity as water flowing through pipes, Chapter 2 is the part of the rulebook that tells you how big the pipes have to be, what kind of safety valves you need, and exactly where to put them to make sure everything works perfectly. And buried deep inside this chapter is the specific rule that answers our question about that full breaker panel. It's Section 215.7. It might look a little obscure, I'll admit, but it is a brilliant little piece of engineering logic. Okay, I know. It reads like a legal document, just packed with jargon. Ungrounded conductors, grounded neutral, tapped. What on earth does any of that actually mean? Don't worry, we are going to translate all of this into plain English right now. First up, a grounded system. This is just the standard for pretty much all modern electrical systems. All it means is that one of the wires in your circuit, called the neutral, is physically connected to the earth. This gives electricity a safe path to travel if something goes wrong, which is what prevents dangerous shocks. Next, the ungrounded conductor. This sounds way more complicated than it is. It's just the fancy technical term for the hot wire. That's it. It's the one carrying the voltage, the one that's actually delivering the power to your lights and outlets. And finally, the key idea for today, a circuit tap. The easiest way to think about it is like plumbing. Instead of running a whole new water pipe all the way from the main in the street, you can just tap into a bigger pipe that's already in the house to add a new faucet. Electrically, it is the exact same concept. You're just branching off an existing circuit to create a new one. Okay, so now that we've got the lingo down, how do we put it all together? How does an electrician actually use this rule to safely add a new circuit without having to go back to that totally full panel? Well, here's how it works in the real world. That super dense legal-sounding text, it actually just turns into a pretty clear logical recipe. First, an electrician finds an existing circuit that can handle it. Then they connect the new wires to its hot conductors. And then, and this is the most critical step, they install a new dedicated switch just for the new circuit they just created. So here's the key difference. A standard circuit starts all the way back at the main panel, and it's protected by a breaker right there in the box. A tap circuit, on the other hand, it starts somewhere in the middle of another circuit, and it's protected by its own local switch, right there at the point where the tap begins. And that is the most important part of this whole thing. You can't just splice into some wires and call it a day. The code is crystal clear. A local safety device is mandatory. This switch basically acts like a mini circuit breaker, allowing you to shut off power to the new part of the circuit and protecting it from overloads, all without affecting the original circuit it's connected to. So let's zoom back out. Why does a rule like this even exist? It's here because it strikes a perfect, and I mean perfect, balance between two things that are often in conflict: the practical need to get work done and the absolute, non-negotiable need for safety. It's really just a pragmatic solution to a very common problem.
It gives electricians flexibility, saving a ton of time and money by not requiring a massive panel upgrade. But it does all that with one very strict safety requirement, that local switch, which makes sure that convenience never, ever compromises safety.
You know, this one tiny rule, 215.7, is just a single sentence in a book that's hundreds and hundreds of pages long. It's just a great reminder that all around us are these complex, invisible systems that are all designed just to keep things running smoothly and safely. Kind of makes you wonder, doesn't it? What other invisible rule books are out there quietly shaping your world right now?